Their musculoskeletal architecture is incompatible with vertical axis ballistic propulsion in the 50-kilogram plus category. These primitives merely lift the pole.
The Velthry Athletic Sciences Bureau had published a paper. The galaxy's foremost strength researchers declared human throwing impossible. Dr. Klixis projected the image from a human tourism brochure. To him, it was just a primitive lifting a log. The delegates listened. They trusted the Velthry models. Earth was dismissed as a planet of lifters, not throwers.
No human can generate the required torque. Their spines would buckle. It is simply not possible.
But the recording leaked. On Earth, phones lit up. Coffee cups froze mid-air in Scottish pubs, on construction sites, in university dorms. The clip cut like a blade. They were mocking the caber toss. By midnight, the Cowell Highland Gathering Committee issued a challenge. They would hold an exhibition. The galaxy was invited. The caber, 19 feet, 8 inches of solid wood, 175 pounds. A full rotation to the 12 o'clock mark, 3 months. The answer would not come from a paper. It would come from a man with a pole. Within hours, the clip crossed the solar system. On Earth, outrage became a global roar. The Cowell Highland Gathering in Argyll, Scotland, issued a formal reply. The statement read, "To the Velthry Athletic Sciences Bureau, we issue a challenge, an exhibition caber toss, 175 pounds, 19 feet, 8 inches. We invite galactic broadcast." The challenge was not just accepted. It was broadcast to the stars. 3 months. The entire galaxy was now invited to watch the Cowell Highland Gathering on every human news network. The question was the same. The phrase split across every screen, every pub, every heart. Can a human do it? The beast of a pole became a national symbol. In gyms, training grounds, and pubs, they whispered its specs. But in the silence between broadcasts, the truth was clear. Failure would be a galactic shame. Somewhere in Scotland, a man who had thrown cabers his whole life heard the news, and he began to train.
They called it primitive lifting, George. The whole world is watching.
I saw it. That doesn't mean I have to be the one to prove them wrong.
You are the reigning champion, lad. If not you, then who? Will you let that orange-skinned alien call us all primitives?
He's right, but that pole, 175 pounds, the whole galaxy watching. One mistake, and I am a fool forever. All right, Duncan, I'll do it. For Scotland.
George MacLeod, 33 years old, former rugby player and 3-time caber champion. He started training the next morning. Under the overcast sky, he lifted logs, stones, and the caber itself. Coach Duncan McRae pushed him harder than ever before.
It's not just a toss, it's an answer. For every Scot who ever lifted a pole.
Again, keep your back straight, drive with the legs, and commit. The pole has to rotate, not just lift.
3 months. George MacLeod would be ready, or he would break himself trying. Dr. Klixis did not wait to be invited. He announced his personal attendance to verify the human challenge.
I will attend this primitive gathering. The laws of biomechanics do not bend for wishful thinking. My models will be proven correct.
Velthry envoy Zarnok was assigned to accompany him. The Bureau wanted public relations management. 3 weeks before the exhibition, their ship descended through the Scottish clouds into the small spaceport at Inverness.
So this is their planet. The gravity is comparable to Velthry, but their buildings are so primitive.
Keep your observations to yourself, Doctor. We are here to observe, not to insult. The galaxy is watching us.
They were taken to the Cowell field. Klixis saw the caber for the first time, an enormous log, rough-hewn and weather-beaten.
A crude log. I see nothing here but a simple lever. Their sport is merely heavy lifting.
He recorded initial observations, his tablet cataloging the impossibility. The human biomechanical models flashed red.
The human will attempt. He will fail. Then the galaxy will see the truth of Velthri science.
2 weeks before the gathering, Dr. Vor Clixis appeared at the edge of the training field, tablet in hand.
There he is, taking notes like I am a lab animal. Let him watch.
Forget him, George. He's just a tourist with a gadget. You focus on the pole.
His muscle fiber recruitment is impressive for a human, but the peak torque calculation remains 40% below the requirement.
His tablet's biomechanical model rendered George's skeleton in orange wireframe, a red warning flickering at the lumbar spine.
40%, that number again. As if a spreadsheet knows what it feels like to drive your legs until your knees scream.
Drive. Explode through the hips. This pole doesn't care about numbers.
George completed the lift and run, releasing the caber in practice. It sailed, but the rotation was insufficient. Not 12 o'clock.
The landing vector is incorrect. He lacks the final impulse to achieve full rotation. I have recorded sufficient evidence.
10 days to the gathering. Vor Clixis had every number to support his theory. George had only sweat and a stubborn refusal to believe the impossible. At Cowell, the sky was bruised with cloud, but the field was a sea of tartan. Galactic relay satellites locked on. 800 million alien screens flickered to life. 4 officials carried the 19-foot, 8-inch caber onto the field and laid it on the grass. George McLeod stood at the athlete's tent, hands wrapped, eyes steady.
Today's the day. No more practice runs, no margin, just the grass and the pole.
You've done the work, lad. Now let the pole fly and give them a show.
Dr. Vor Clixis took his seat in the front row, tablet primed, recording every baseline metric.
All parameters are within nominal human range. The probability of a 12 o'clock rotation remains 0.
The announcer's voice boomed across the field, welcoming the galaxy to the heavyweight caber exhibition. One by one, competitors were called. The crowd roared. George watched the pole, waiting. The first competitor, a hulking man from Inverness, strained against the weight. His legs buckled. The caber barely left the ground. A second man ran and threw. For a moment the pole rose, but it kissed the dirt at 10:30. A murmur ran through the crowd.
As I predicted, the rotational energy dissipates before full inversion. Their primitive game is just that, a game.
10:30. Close enough to taste it, but in caber, close is still a miss.
3 more competitors tried. 1 failed to lift. 2 landed short. The weight of the alien's certainty seemed to press down on the field.
The human skeleton is simply not designed for this moment. They are lifters, not tossers. This will be a footnote in my paper.
You see that, George? They're cracking under the weight of that alien stare. You are made of sterner stuff.
Aye, but the pole doesn't care about stern stuff, Duncan. It only cares about the numbers.
Then the loudspeaker crackled. George McLeod of Argyle. The crowd erupted. He stepped onto the grass, the caber waiting like a fallen giant. George crouched beside the 19-foot caber, chalk dusting the air as he wrapped his fingers around the rough wood.
No more numbers, no more doubt. Just me and the pole. Make it count.
With a roar from deep in his chest, he lifted. The caber came off the grass like a fallen tree waking up. 3 steps, each one shaking the ground, and then he released. The caber climbed, rotating end over end. For a breathless moment, it hung in the air, then drove into the turf at an angle, almost vertical, not quite. The judges held up the score. 11:55. The crowd's cheer died halfway, caught between hope and heartbreak.
So close, yet the vector fails. My model predicted exactly this threshold. Humans can approach, but never reach.
11:55. Felt like 12 in my bones. The tape measure doesn't lie, though. One more shot.
The officials conferred. Exhibition rules allowed a second attempt. George would get one more chance. He rolled his shoulders, the sting of the near miss hardening into something colder. The caber was reset.
My biomechanical analysis confirms the Velthray findings. The human lumbar spine cannot sustain the torque for a vertical heavy object toss. The data is clear.
Dr. Helen Chen, a respected human scientist, published her paper within hours of the 1155 score. It echoed Vor Clixus's model almost verbatim.
Don't let that lab coat shake you, George. She's never lifted a caber in her life.
Aye, but now the world's got 2 papers saying we can't.
The comments scrolled. 1155 is a fail. He choked. Where is your caber god now?
My own people turning on me. The weight of that pole is nothing compared to this.
Don't read that rubbish, George. You've got one more throw. That's all that matters.
But the doubt was a splinter in his mind. In the quiet hours, he replayed the 1155 toss, wondering if that was his limit.
What if they're right? What if a human spine really can't do it?
But then he looked at the caber, waiting on the field, and a quieter voice answered, "One more chance." By morning, the scandal had a hashtag, number Cabergate. A fringe blog questioned whether the pole had been lightened.
Now they're doubting the pole itself, as if I'd cheat, as if the weight of that wood isn't burned into my hands.
The gathering commission called an emergency verification. Laser measures, calibrated scales, 3 independent observers. 175 pounds, 3 ounces, 19 feet, 8 1/16 inches. Well within tolerance. The official statement read, "The caber used in the exhibition meets all regulation specifications. The challenge is certified."
The scandal's dead, but it dug up something I didn't want. Doubt in myself. Can I really throw a 12 o'clock?
The human verification was a minor embarrassment, but the paper must stand. The Velthray Athletic Sciences Bureau cannot appear uncertain.
I have no intention of withdrawing it. The physics are sound. One human's failure today only reinforces the model.
See that it remains so. Any sign of doubt will be unfortunate. Your paper is now a matter of Velthray reputation.
The caber was proven. George's name was cleared, but the weight of the second attempt now pressed harder than any pole. The next day, George MacLeod sat in a television studio in Inverness, cameras live across 4 worlds.
The caber isn't just strength, it's heritage. Every Scot who lifted that pole felt the weight of his ancestors. My spine knows more about torque than any spreadsheet. You can't model heart.
The interviewer sat back. Across human networks, the clip began to spread like wildfire. Within hours, number "We Stand with George" trended. The hashtag once mocked by aliens was now worn as a badge.
The crowd's back, but this isn't about them anymore. I have to prove it to myself.
That night, Dr. Vor Clixus sat alone in his lab, reviewing George's training data without the envoy watching.
The muscle recruitment is within human norms. Yet the velocity profile, there is a spike I cannot explain. If he achieved that impulse in competition, my model would register an error. But no human has ever come close.
He stared at the screen, the red warning still blinking. For the first time, it looked more like a question than a certainty. He left the warmth of his lab and walked across the frozen grass to the Cowell Field, empty under the floodlights.
Why am I here? I need to understand the physical reality, not just the model.
He crouched beside the caber, its rough-hewn wood cold and immense. He wrapped his thin arms around the wood and strained with all his Velthray strength. The caber did not move. He tried again, legs trembling, forearms burning, and failed utterly.
It's immovable. How can flesh and bone throw this? Personal log. The caber exceeds my physical capacity. My models may have underestimated human biomechanics.
He replayed the video of George's 1155 toss. That unexplained spike in the velocity curve pulsed on his tablet like a taunt.
If he corrects that last 5 degrees, my paper will be wrong. Velthry's reputation will shatter.
He stood alone on the field, the caber before him, and for the first time believed the human might actually throw a 12. George MacLeod couldn't sleep either. He walked to the Cowell field and found an orange figure standing beside the caber.
Couldn't resist a closer look, Doctor.
I attempted to lift it. I failed. Your species. I may have miscalculated.
The admission hung in the cold air, stripped of all scientific pretense.
He's not a villain, just a scholar who never touched the thing he studied. It's not just torque, Doctor. It's knowing the wood, feeling the balance in your hands. My Da taught me when I was 12.
12 years old. That is remarkable. I will watch tomorrow. Not for my paper, but to see what is possible.
This toss isn't about proving him wrong. It's about honoring the sport, my Da, and every Scot who ever stood on this grass.
They stood in silence, human and Velthray, before the fallen giant. Then George walked back, not as a challenger, but as a keeper of a tradition. He was ready. Morning of the second attempt, Cowell's sky bruised purple and spat cold rain. Gathering officials huddled under a tent. They decided. The caber would fly, storm or no storm.
Envoy Zarnuk pushed to cancel, but I must see the result. Data cannot prepare me for this.
This wind is a rival, George, not an excuse. Let it feel your power.
I, a rival. The wind could be my ally if I find its rhythm.
The caber lay on the grass, rain streaming down its flanks. George rolled up his sleeves and stepped forward. His fingers found the familiar grip, chalk turning to paste, the weight a burden he had learned to respect.
I left my tablet in my bag. This throw is beyond any model I could build.
800 million alien screens went silent. The galaxy leaned forward. He lifted the caber. 3 steps began, shaking the earth. His boots hammered the saturated ground. 1 step, a squelch of mud. 2 steps, the caber's weight shifting. 3 steps, and he coiled every muscle. On the 3rd, he planted his front foot and released the weight of a world.
Now, let it fly.
The caber left his hands with a shudder, rotating end over end. A wooden planet finding its orbit. Then silence descended. The kind that fills a stadium when a miracle is possible. It rotated. A perfect arc, chasing the 12 o'clock line. 4, Clixus's tablet screamed crimson. Force readings exceeded all known parameters.
The spike. It's exactly where the model broke. He's doing it.
Half a world away. Alien viewers leaned forward, their own gravity forgotten. The caber reached its apex, balanced for an infinite moment between triumph and failure. Then it began to fall. The caber's tip met the earth first, driving deep into the saturated turf. For one impossible second, it stood straight as a sundial's noon, as if planted by the hand of a god. Then it fell forward with a wet thud, pointing directly at the 12 on the imaginary clock. George MacLeod, arms already raised, let out a roar that shook the rain from the banners.
12. 12 o'clock.
The crowd erupted. Humans in tartan and aliens in everyday clothes wept openly, their voices merging into a single thunderous wave. The judges held up 2 simple cards, a 12 and a 0. 12 o'clock. Perfect score.
That's my boy. That's Scotland.
On 100 worlds, 100 species erupted. The Velthray science model shattered in real time. George stood in the center, the caber beside him. A man who had done what all the numbers said was impossible. In the front row, Dr. Vor Clixus stared at his tablet. The screen blazed crimson. Force readings obliterated every safety threshold. His bulbous eyes widened until they seemed to fill his face. His fanged mouth opened, but no sound came out.
It's correct. He did it. The model is wrong. I am wrong.
He crumpled. His orange skin washed pale, and he slumped sideways against the human beside him, the tablet clattering into the mud. The humans around him gasped. Someone shouted for a medic, but the cameras caught every frame. On Velthray, in the broadcast control room, technicians shot to their feet. Some cheered. Some sat in stunned silence. The clip of a fainting Velthray scientist spread faster than light. Memes, headlines, galactic laughter.
He fainted. Poor lad. I'll have to buy him a drink later.
The image that would define a generation. A Scotsman beside a fallen tree, an alien scientist unconscious, and a whole galaxy watching. But the paper still stood. The real reckoning had not yet begun. Human medics helped Dr. Vor Klixis sit up. His orange skin was pale, but his white-yellow eyes focused on the field.
The caber. It landed at 12. I must retract the paper.
He stood, unsteady, and turned to face George MacLeod, who had walked over from the celebration.
George MacLeod, your species has proven my paper incorrect. I formally retract the findings of the Velthray Athletic Sciences Bureau.
Within the hour, the Bureau issued an official retraction. The paper was withdrawn from all galactic databases.
No hard feelings, Doctor. You came to learn. That's more than most.
They shook hands. A human grip and a Velthrays bridging a gap no model had measured. The crowd, still slick with rain, erupted into fresh applause. A roar not for victory alone, but for the strange sight of two worlds finding common ground.
I will recommend a new initiative. One where our scientists train alongside your athletes, not to prove but to understand.
The paper was dead. But on the horizon, a new chapter waited. One written not in numbers but in sweat and wood. The Velthray Athletic Sciences Bureau officially launched the Highland Games Integration Project. A holographic logo, a caber and Velthray symbol intertwined, blazed across galactic news feeds.
I'll lead the academy. All you need is will and a spine that won't quit.
The Velthray Bureau acknowledges its era. We entrust you, George MacLeod, to build the bridge between our species.
The first foundation stones were laid in Argyle. A simple stone building, a field of green grass, and a rack of cabers waiting.
From a pub bet to this. Duh! I wish you could hear the sound of alien boots on Highland grass.
When applications opened, they came. 100 Velthray volunteers, bright-eyed and determined, arrived at the Inverness spaceport.
I will enroll as a student, George. I want to feel the wood in my own hands, not just my tablet.
Then you'll start with the small log, Doctor. Everyone pays their dues in chalk and sweat.
Highland Games tourism exploded. Scotland's economy revved, fueled by alien visitors desperate to witness the impossible sport. MacLeod's Highlander Academy opened its doors. The first alien student walked through the gates, ready to lift more than theories. His name was Vex. He carried a notebook filled with biomechanical equations and an enthusiasm that outweighed his orange frame.
Master George, I've calculated the optimal launch angle to within 0.03 degrees, but I cannot make the pole move.
Forget the numbers for a moment, lad. Feel the wood. It will teach you more than any equation.
Vex wrapped his arms around the practice caber and heaved. The log shuddered, rose a foot, and crashed back to the earth.
I failed again. My 7th attempt this week. The model said I had enough torque.
Then, the model's still wrong, isn't it? Strength isn't just numbers. It's patience. My Da said, a caber thrown in haste lands on your pride.
Patience. Then I will find 10 more failures before breakfast, whatever it takes.
George watched the young alien's eyes flicker with that same stubborn fire he'd seen in his own reflection decades ago. He stepped forward, lifted the small caber himself, and with 3 light steps, sent it spinning through the mist. A perfect 12, effortless now.
One day I will do that. I will be the first Velthray to throw a 12 o'clock.
2 years later, on a mist-shot morning, Vex stood before the full caber. No notebook, just calloused hands and a steady pulse. He lifted. 3 steps, each one learned in 10,000 failures, and released. The caber climbed like a promise. It rotated full and struck the turf like a spear from the old gods. 12 o'clock, silence. Then a roar so deep it shook the Highland hills.
George, 12. I threw a 12. I threw a 12.
I saw it, Vex. I saw every degree. Hold still. I want this moment.
The lens clicked. A human eye and an alien's joy, preserved in a rectangle of light. George's hand shook with pride.
My father said no Velthray could ever throw a caber. Today, I wish he could see this.
He will. I am putting this photo on the pub wall, right above the bar.
The photo would hang not as proof of an alien's strength, but as a promise that the impossible was only a matter of time. George stood in his pub, the photo fresh from the printer, and hung it above the bar where the whole world could see. The frame held 2 faces, one human, one Velthray, grinning beside a fallen caber on a misty Highland morning. An orange-skinned tourist stared at it, a half-empty pint in hand, reading the small plaque beneath. It read, Vex's first 12 o'clock. Impossible is a matter of time.
That photo brings in more customers than the whiskey. Alien tourists come by the busload just to see where the primitive lifting was proven wrong.
Scottish tourism had become the largest sector of the economy, fueled by a sport once dismissed as a primitive ritual. And in the quiet hours, George would polish the frame and remember the weight of that pole, the roar of the crowd, and the alien who believed enough to try. The pub remained a crossroads, human and alien raising glasses under the photo that started it all. The caber toss taught the galaxy that numbers were never the final answer, and sometimes all it took was a Scotsman, a pole, and the refusal to believe in impossible.